Grimora.
I worked nights at Lakeview Memorial Hospital in Knoxville, Tennessee. My contract covered maintenance checks on the older wings of the facility, including the East Patient Hall that had been closed for years. The floors were still polished once a week, and the equipment remained in place in case that section was ever reopened. Most people avoided that wing. Even during the day, it stayed colder than the rest of the building. My shift started at 9 in the evening and ended at 5 in the morning. Most nights, I walked the lower halls alone, testing doors and lights, logging temperature readings, and checking rooms for leaks or electrical issues. The quiet of night shift never bothered me. The sound of machines down the active hallways became a steady backdrop, and the silence of the closed wing felt like a break from everything else. On my 6th night working there, I entered the east wing to check the heating vents. The hallway lights flickered once and then held steady. The floor shone back the overhead glow in a dull reflection. Most of the patient rooms along the hall had empty beds and unused equipment pulled to the corners. A few still had sheets folded tightly across the mattresses. Halfway down the hallway was room 214. The door stood slightly open, and the room beyond looked darker than the others. I scanned the ID plate beside the door out of routine. The engraved tag read Bed 14. I remembered that one because the number plate was newer than the others around it, as if it had been replaced recently. When I stepped inside, the air cooled sharply. The monitor beside the bed was unplugged and covered in dust. The blinds were drawn down completely over the single window. The overhead fixture cast a muted yellow light that barely reached the corners. The room smelled faintly like damp cloth and oxygen tanks. The sheet on bed 14 rose slightly, then settled again as if a breath had moved through the mattress. I stared at it without moving. It rose a second time, slower this time, holding higher before lowering back into place. The rest of the room remained still. The air near the bed felt thicker, like moisture hanging before rainfall. I stepped closer. The sheet moved again. This time, the rise formed the outline of a human chest expanding. The fabric stretched outward, smooth and steady, then lowered with the controlled rhythm of someone breathing in and out. The room had no vents near the bed. The air was completely still. I could hear my own breathing inside the mask more clearly than usual. I reached forward and touched the sheet lightly with the back of my hand. The fabric felt warm. The breathing stopped instantly. The sheet flattened completely. The room fell silent, even the hum of distant machines fading behind the walls. I backed away and left the room without logging the temperature. The door clicked shut behind me with a sound sharper than any other door in the hall. The next night, I avoided room 214 until the end of the shift. Something about the empty hallway felt altered, like the silence carried weight. When I finally walked back to the east wing, the lights flickered again in a slow wave from one end to the other. As soon as I reached the doorway of room 214, I heard breathing inside. Not the quiet rise beneath the sheet, but a deeper sound filling the space. Slow inhalation. Slow release, controlled, human, too close. I opened the door halfway. Bed 14 looked the same. Blank sheet, smooth surface, equipment silent. But the breathing continued, loud enough to vibrate through the metal frame of the bed. The sound matched the slow rhythm of sleep, but there was no body to cause it. As I stepped closer, the sheet lifted again, higher than before. The shape beneath the fabric pressed upward, forming the outline of a rib cage expanding. The sheet pulled tight around a shoulder shape. The rise reached the height of a sitting position, as though someone beneath was trying to sit up but could not break the surface. I watched as the sheet strained upward, pressing the shape of a head and neck against the cloth. Hair pressed the fabric outward, long strands forcing lines through the material. Then the sheet fell flat again in an instant, like the weight had vanished. The breathing stopped. I stood at the foot of the bed, unable to move. The room filled with a different sound,
a shallow whispering through the monitor cables, like air caught inside plastic tubing. Then a voice followed, quiet and level. "Do not touch the sheet." The sound came from directly beneath the cloth, calm, empty. The voice belonged to no living person. I stepped backward, but the voice continued, matching my breath, speaking through it, using it. "Do not open it." The temperature fell sharply. Condensation formed across the metal railings, and the window glass fogged white. I turned to leave, but stopped when I saw movement in the reflection. A face formed in the glass, pale, eyelids sunken, lips slightly parted, skin pressed thinly against bone. Hair clung to the forehead as though soaked in fluid. The face did not move with natural timing. It tilted forward in a slow angle too controlled to be living. Behind me, the sheet rose again, higher and stronger, filling the shape beneath like a body forcing itself upright. Shoulders pushed through the fabric. The shape under the sheet turned slowly toward where I stood, although the sheet never lifted high enough to reveal the face directly. The voice spoke again, this time using my breath to form each word. "Help me stand." My lungs tightened. My arms tensed without command. My body leaned forward as if pulled by someone standing directly behind me. The shape beneath the sheet shifted closer, pressing toward the foot of the bed. I fought the motion and staggered backward toward the door. The shape beneath the sheet fell silent completely. The sheet collapsed flat without a sound. The room returned to stillness, except for the faint echo of breath trapped inside tubing that had not been touched in years. I closed the door and left the building without clocking out. The next day, I did not return for my shift. The supervisor called twice and left a message about unfinished logs, but he sounded detached, as if he already knew the reason I would not come back. That night, I awoke to a sound from across my bedroom, breathing, slow, measured, exactly the rhythm from room 214. The sheet covering my bed lifted slightly near my feet. The shape beneath rose upward, one breath at a time, waiting to sit. I have not touched it. I am waiting for it to finish rising.